We didn't talk about this. This happened a couple weeks ago. A Twitter account, Wrestle Purists, tweeted out a Dave Meltzer quote from Observer Radio. If you follow AEW, you know that a lot of stuff is being decided at much later periods than previous. Guys are getting their information on what they're doing later, and decisions are being made later. That's just how it is. There's times the day of the show, sometimes you don't even know what plans are. It's almost at times like we used to talk about WWE, which is also very frustrating for talent. A lot of guys have a lot of input on what they're doing, so they're doing stuff, but they don't really know a long-term direction. And Jerry Lynn replied to that, because wrestlers and God knows who else have and continue to leak info to the sheets, podcasts, etc. So, Tony tries to keep things confidential. You wouldn't want to know everything before you see a movie. Anyone who leaks info is doing damage to the product and the industry. So what are your thoughts on Dave's report about what's happening with frustrations amongst talent, and Jerry Lynn, an AEW producer, agent, whatever he is, his response?
Well, his response was very valid to a normal situation. Both of these things can be correct. There is probably chaos. We have heard that we've seen the evidence of there is much chaos and wondering and second guessing and whisper campaigning and all that stuff going on backstage at AEW. And amongst and a lot of them don't know either what they're doing or where they're going. It's obvious. And at the same time, unfortunately for a guy like Jerry Lynn, who's been in the business for 35 years, he just looks like, Dorian Gray, and there's a horrible picture of him in the attic. It's sad that he sees both big stars and preliminary guys just going out and fucking talking about all the shit they're doing and they're gonna do and they want to do, and it'll be great if they do. And that's ridiculous also. So unfortunately, they're not running a tight ship backstage at AEW. But if they did have more organization and were telling these guys even further out, we'd all know about it even further out because they can't keep their fucking mouths shut.
Well, the only problem with all this, and again, he's responding to Dave, what booking plans were ruined by stuff getting out?
Well, there's nothing ruined. It wasn't that good to begin with. I'm not saying they said, oh, it got out, we had to start from scratch and scrap that. It's just that everybody pretty much knows, except for the shit that they don't even know is going to happen until it happens.
But what
everybody knows what's going on over there.
What I'm saying is what Jerry Lynn is saying is not wrong on its face. The idea that stuff gets leaked is kind of what ruins the mystique of pro wrestling.
Yes.
It's why the Observer was what it was when people first saw it in the 80s and 90s. Like, holy shit, look at what's in this thing.
Yes, but for them,
that's not an AEW problem.
For anybody to use as an excuse for the lack of forethought and long-term booking and or sensible shit that, well, we don't want to tell them. Unfortunately, they don't have anything to tell them. So, and then, but for Dave to be the one to point it out, is it like Cronkite when he went to Vietnam and came back and said, this is not a good war? And Johnson said, well, if we lost Cronkite, we lost America. If we've lost Uncle Dave, have they lost the war?
It's going to be one of the interesting things to watch for the next year. Dave doesn't have as much influence with Tony in terms of Tony just doing what Dave wants him to do. And also at the same time, Tony is losing Dave and the smart fans, and he knows it. So while Tony's chasing ratings, he's chasing the love of the audience he once had. And he's not, making anyone happy in the process.
This is a better television show. The synopsis, can you say again what you just said in those words?
I don't know. What did I just say
That's the perfect scenario. And while Tony has lost Dave, Tony is chasing the love of the audience he once had. That's the synopsis for a fucking hit television program.
You see, that's the problem, though. Tony right now is chasing the ratings that there's an ebb and flow every year, and especially with whatever's happening in television, but also AEW is just not as hot, not as popular. not as must-see as it once was. The good stuff and the bad stuff on that show, you had to see it. Now you don't mind missing it. He's chasing the numbers because he needs a television deal or to make his television partner happy. And at the same time, the audience that was always there, the audience that attacked the Cornette listeners, said that they were out of touch because they didn't ignore booking holes because we got a good match at the end. Now they're realizing the booking holes that we pointed out are now giant fucking potholes. We pointed them out when they were first starting. Those little holes, look at that little hole in the street. That's going to be a giant pothole. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. They're doing a great job. Oh, now there's a giant pothole. And now you're all getting fucking pop tires.
And AEW is becoming the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky. For the people in that area, that's a fucking snot blower.
What does that mean?
A sinkhole opened up a couple of years ago underneath the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where they make the Corvettes, and it swallowed up about $2 million worth of rare prize Corvettes right down in the goddamn cave. Kentucky is built on top of fucking a cave system, Mammoth Cave, for fuck's sake. Well, the Corvettes ended up in the cave, or at least the sinkhole.
Well, we'll see if AEW can get themselves out of the sinkhole, but I don't know if leaking the booking and the storylines and anything like that has been a problem that has hurt AEW at all.
I think it's probably better that they know so they can brace themselves for what's coming up, rather than seeing it and being disappointed and shocked at the same time.
We don't want it getting out. Let's not announce Omega versus MJF until right before the match.
Perfect.